Hello. In the last video, we talked about the Rockefeller habits. These are the rules that Vern Harnish said Rockefeller had to help him grow and manage his businesses. And the key one really was, the first one was, the executive team are healthy and aligned. And I just want to elaborate a little bit on that, my understanding of what that actually means. So when I say the executive team are healthy and aligned, they have healthy communications and so on, what do I actually mean by that? Well, what I mean primarily is that each team member understands themselves. So first they understand themselves, and then they understand other members of the teams. And they understand what they and other members of the team bring to the party, what each is supposed to be doing. The team has a shared language. There's a way they can communicate, that they understand each other. They have clear accountability. They hold, and I'm talking about peer accountability, but they hold each other responsible. So how does one do that? How does one go about actually creating that dynamic, if you wish, in the team? And that's really what I want to just elaborate on today. So, as you know, I am a TTI, a Success Insights practitioner of their psychometrics, Behaviours, driving forces, competencies, EQ, and Acumen Capacity Index. And in our suite of tools, we use these to actually profile team members. So, DISC, behaviours, how one likes to do things, how one likes to communicate and be communicated with. Driving forces, how one measures motivators, what engages one or disengages one, why one does what one does. Competencies, what skills has one developed that modify behaviours and so on. EQ, how active is one in the area of personal awareness, so awareness of self and one's emotions, regulation of self, awareness of others, social awareness, and regulation of one's interactions with others to get an outcome, social regulation. So how active is one in practicing these areas? And then Acumen Capacity Index, we also use sometimes. It determines one's judgment and decision-making capacity. A really good tool to use in recruitment. But the core science we use are behaviours, driving forces, competence, and EQ. And once you've profiled an individual, they can then understand their strengths and weaknesses. They can see how they like to communicate, how they like to work, what will motivate them, what's important and what they value, and the filters through which they see the world. And this interpersonal understanding can be quite profound. I can remember the first time that I did assessments like this, it was sort of blew my mind. So, and I often remember that when you do this kind of profiling of team members, it's the first time they've had an insight into themselves. They've really had no experience. They have no language to describe themselves. And so you're giving them this language so they can actually name their game, if you wish. And once they do that, of course, and they start to understand themselves, they begin to understand others' perceptions of them, how others actually experience them, and why others like them or dislike them, get on with them, don't get on with them. And then the next logical step is when you've done that for the individual, well, that same individual can then look out at other team members and come to understand them. What other people bring to the party, what value they have as team members, why they're necessary as team members, how others like to be communicated with, and so on, what motivates, engages others, and so on. So when you have this, people begin to understand, they have a shared language in the team. People understand themselves, they start to understand other people. And when they start to understand other people, you understand their differences and their strengths and weaknesses, but you start to have respect. You realise, hold on a second, we need these various team members. They're bringing different things to the party, and it's very, very important. And they have different perspectives. They wear different hats, if you wish. And they've come to understand this. And instead of seeing these differences as challenges or problems, they begin to see these differences as actually strengths that build the team and make the team strong. And the next logical step from that, of course, is that you profile the job. So you profile the particular roles that incumbents are in. Say, there's your role. Can we profile it the same way as we profile you? Compare you to the role and come up with a gap report and show, your strengths and weaknesses vis-a-vis the role, and what the development needs are for superior performance in that role. And then can we do that for everybody on the team? Can we then see how all the team members, what they bring, what their strengths are, how they can contribute most meaningfully, but also the gaps that they have that they need to work on and develop. It brings a certain sort of a certain humility, a bit of compassion, a bit of humanity to the whole exercise. But it really brings superior performance, because all of a sudden people are working on the constraints, they're working on the things that actually are stopping them from becoming superior performers. And if everybody's doing that, there's a general consensus among the team. Hang on a second, we're now beginning to understand each other, now beginning to respect each other, we're now beginning to move forward as individuals. And tongue in cheek, they can have a little laugh. They can say things like, for example, that's your high this, or your low that, or that's this driving force or that driving force, or whatever. They can talk about these things and understand and stop passing judgment, stop criticizing, and stop being defensive, and stop reacting. And this allows them, of course, then, as you can imagine, when they start working with a team and sort of communications workshops and leadership development workshops around that, it allows them to stop playing politics, stop gossiping, stop backbiting, stop covering their ass. And all of a sudden they're focused on what? Well, they're focused on the deliverables, because their peers are looking at them and expect them to deliver. So they start focusing on the deliverables, focus on what they're doing, they put their head down and they get busy. Of course, when you've benchmarked these roles, you can also align the roles with the business plan, with the strategy of the organisation, where you're trying to take the organisation to. That's a separate step, and I'll talk about that at another stage. But you can see here the power of this. So this exercise to me of helping a team understand themselves individually, understand the others, understand the strengths and weaknesses, how they work and won't work and so on, and learn to honour and respect the difference between each person, align themselves to roles, identify the gaps between them and the roles, and develop those gaps for superior performer. This is the key to having a healthy team that's aligned, where people respect each other, where people recognise the value that each person is bringing, and then they can focus on the goals and objectives of the organisation in a much more meaningful way to drive the organisation forward. So I hope that this is useful to you, and in the next video I'll elaborate a little bit further on this theme. I look forward to talking to you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.